Hey there, and welcome to Go Far Girl, the podcast where women share the stories that changed them one journey at a time. I'm your host, Chantel. I'm a travel writer and a lifelong wanderer, and I believe that every mile we travel brings us closer to the strongest, boldest, most authentic versions of ourselves. Each week, I'll sit down with incredible women to talk about the trips that shaped them, the lessons they learned along the way, and the power of going far in every sense of the word. So grab your coffee, your journal, or your carry-on, and let's dive in. Hi, good morning. Welcome to Go Far Girl. Today on the show, we're going to talk everything national parks, specifically one of my favorite parks, which is Glacier National Park. I'm going to do my best to keep quiet and let our guest tell us about Glacier because I tend to get a little excited about Glacier. So we'll let her tell us all about it. I'm here with Maggie today. She's a former middle school teacher and a mother of three. She's also a little bit obsessed with national parks, which makes me know I love her already. Her goal is to help others plan their travel with less stress and more confidence. She runs a website called parksfamilytravel.com where she offers travel tips, guides, educational planning courses, personalized consulting, and digital activity books to make family adventures accessible and memorable. So I'm going to have all of her links down in the description. So make sure you follow her. I got to go check out these digital activity books because I'm not a child, but I kind of am. So that sounds pretty cool. So, Meggie, hi, welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
I am so excited to be here and talk about Glacier and all things national parks. Thank you.
I know it's kind of like this subculture of like crazy people, like obsessed, right? But like in a good way, like not scary obsessed, but like once you're in, you're in. Like,
Yes, we really connect quickly and deeply when we
no, for
start
sure, for
talking.
sure. It's like a, oh my gosh, I feel like a Disney adult, but like,
That's a great way of comparing them. I love that.
So when did you first start knowing that you loved these places? What kind of got you? What was your gateway drug, Park?
Well, my parents had taken me to a couple. I grew up in Southern California, but we had family in Utah. So we would kind of do like the drive-by style of national parks. But when we first got married, when I first married my husband, we were really focused on saving a lot of money. I had always loved to travel and and he had liked like travel sort of. Like he liked the idea of travel, but we knew we couldn't really afford expensive travel. And because we are focused in the West, it national parks became like an immediate default. When we planned a trip, it was what new park are we going to go to? Because there were so many within a drive of us,
Yes.
some of them longer than others. But we could drive to so many parks and camp, or we could find inexpensive hotels. And then visiting most of, not all, the parks can be relatively inexpensive. So that's what got us. And so we just started going bam, bam, bam. And then when we had our first kid, just a year before our first anniversary. And then we were taking him everywhere. And it just became kind of part of our family culture. And so now, not every trip we take is national parks focused, but I try really hard to go to a national park on almost every trip we take. And that's usually what is pulling us somewhere. So it's been so fun.
You're so funny because this is random, but I got offered a trip to South Carolina to Hilton Head. And so I told my husband, hey, if we go to Hilton Head, we should try to go to Congaree. And then I was like, oh, you know what we should actually do since we're there? Let's just start in Maine and go to Acadia and drive all the way down and go to like Shenandoah and New River Gorge and then down into. So now what started as, do you want to come visit our hotel in Hilton Head for a weekend? Is now like this 3 week psychopathic road trip down the entire East Coast because we're already there and there's parks. So I totally get your style of travel. I'm super stoked.
Yeah, we actually just did spring break in Washington, D.C. My sister in law lives there and we found really great flights. So we're like, great, we'll do D.C. Like, well, while we're in D.C., and we ended up backtracking, but I'm like, let's hit New River Gorge. Then we have friends down in Raleigh. So we'll spend the night with them and then we'll go to Congaree and back up to D.C. We did end up only staying in DC. But though we did visit Gettysburg and Harper's Ferry and some
Oh,
of
so
those,
cool. Yeah.
they're still part of the national park system, but I'm like, when are we going to get back to South Carolina? And yeah, the original plan was to go hard, and we decided to take it a little slower this time.
Well, I love that you have that willpower. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's hard.
So I probably already know the answer. Other people might not. Why does Glacier National Park stand out as one of your favorites, like the most meaningful parks? Tell someone who hasn't been there, if there's words in the English language to describe it.
Just so beautiful and breathtaking. And again, I live in Utah, which has some gorgeous scenery, gorgeous mountains, gorgeous desert, all of the good stuff. And so I guess I feel a little spoiled, but when you go to Glacier, like you just can't explain it. And you see, I love that there are so many types of activities that you can do in Glacier for a range of, I guess, abilities or interests as well. So for me, Glacier is just it's a park for everyone because even if you can't hike, you drive that going to the Sun Road, boom, like worth it, right? Um,
Amazing.
yeah, yeah. Except I can't drive it. I was slightly terrified the whole time. My husband was very confident; he felt good, but I was like kind of holding on for dear life. I don't know if that was your experience or
No,
not, but
it's a
I
lot, but
I
I
get a
wouldn't
little
drive it
nervous.
because I wanted to look out the window, like, I wouldn't pay attention
Yes,
to driving.
exactly.
So I
Yeah, you
felt
could
bad
take like the
because
red
he
bus.
was yeah, he was just having to white knuckle and drive it while I was like, "Oh, look at that." He's like, "I can't look, you're gonna die."
I'm like, it's really pretty. I'll take some pictures.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I had it really good. But then you also like for the like ultimate adventure, like there are some like through hiking, like some really intense hiking experiences that I mean, I haven't done them, but I still like am obsessed with the idea of them and like the hut to hut, like there's huts that you can hike
I
to, and
know.
it just really appeals, I think, to a lot of people. Um, I would say that the people who don't enjoy Glacier, like if I get feedback and they're like, it wasn't my favorite, I think that they felt overwhelmed with crowds. But
I would
I
just
also
block
think
them
that
and move on.
you're like, I don't have the space for you here. Because we went in the middle of July and we had a glorious experience. Were there people there? Absolutely.
Sure.
But you were almost having kind of a community connection with a lot of these people too, that you were experiencing this together. So, and I have some tips for that as well in
Yeah.
avoiding
Well, it's
crowds.
hard too because going to the Sun Road isn't always open very often, and there's not a set
Yes.
date because it depends on the weather. We've been in July when it has not been opened yet. And then we were in September right before it closed. I've also been in like March when it's just completely no one in the park but us and the snow. And that's also incredible. Of course, you can't
I
get
believe
very
it.
far, but it's just so beautiful. So I definitely think, like you're saying, there's ways around the crowds, but there's also, you have to know that there's going to be crowds too. It's not the best park for, like, it's not a secret that it's the best park. Everyone wants to go, and it is what it is. So, if you were to design an itinerary for the very first time person, and just say average person, so we're not talking about no hiking at all, but we're not talking about the like backcountry hiking either. How many days, what time of year, what would you like suggest you cannot miss while you're there for the first time?
Okay, well, that is a little tricky. I am going to give the itinerary close to what we did because I
Love
really
that.
do think I did a great job of
I love it.
planning and organizing it. But that being said, we missed a ton. Like, you really, I don't think you can. How do I say this? You can definitely get a great feel and experience in Glacier and only visit like one section of the park. I
Sure.
absolutely think it's worth doing. But part of the thing that I love about Glacier is like we could go back and we could spend another 3 days and never even go back to what we visited. So let me backtrack. What I would suggest is a good at least one full day with I would say 2 full days with maybe another half day on each side would be really nice depending on where you're staying. So this is what we did and I thought was fantastic. Okay. We did end up staying in the park. We camped in the park and I know not everybody is campers. So for those of you who aren't campers, they have lots of lodging too. Not lots, but some lodging. We stayed near Lake McDonald, which is going to be more on the Kalispell Whitefish side. They call that what, the west
West
entrance?
Epcot.
Yes. West,
Yeah.
yeah, west of the park. So near West Glacier and all that. We stayed at Fishing Creek was the name of the campground. Highly recommend it. It was fantastic. didn't feel overcrowded. You could walk right up to Lake McDonald from the campground. Anyways, so I would stay in the park if at all possible. If not, like that's not your thing, there are lots of options in, again, Kalispell and Whitefish, or if you want to be on the east side, you got St. Mary's and things like that. But so day one, we got there in the afternoon, set up camp, and really just relaxed. So we camped at Fish Creek Campground just off of Lake McDonald. And what I would suggest if you're going to be camping or in that area is taking the Rocky Point Trail. It's not too long, and you can really, it's an out and back, so you can just take it as far as you want along the lake, turn around, and head back to the campground. We honestly didn't make it very far up that trail because kids saw the lake immediately and just wanted to go and skip rocks and splash around the whole time. So we had a really low key day. I do think starting out in that Lake McDonald area is really special just because it's so beautiful. And the rainbow rocks and all of that great stuff is just, it's exciting.
I was just gonna say, for those who don't know, you do know Lake McDonald, even if you don't know you know it. It's the one you see everywhere with those beautiful colored rocks and the mountains reflecting off the lake in the background. It's kind of like that first wow point of West Glacier. So definitely, if you can stay near it, bonus points because that's amazing.
Yes, awesome. And there is also a Lake McDonald campground. There's an inn, I think, right there at Lake McDonald. So, I mean, it's really just special to me because that's where we had our experience. So I'm always like, well, we'll go there. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
But then the next day was like our big day in the park. And one strategy for those of you who are maybe new to national parks or new to traveling with kids or both is I do like to try to get some buy in with my children. And I also like to prepare them. So for me, I really wanted to do Avalanche Lake. And for our family, that was a bit of a stretch in terms of mileage. So it claims it's about 4.5 miles. My kids had maybe hiked 3-ish miles prior to that. Uh, so I prepped them. I made them go hiking multiple times before we went on our trip so that they had kind of gotten used to hiking. And it ended up being 6 miles for us somehow. So they were dead tired after. But let me just tell you a little bit about Avalanche Lake. You'll go through the West Glacier entrance and really not too far, maybe 10 or 15 minutes. There's some parking and overflow parking, and you can do the Avalanche Lake hike. But before that, you do Trail of the Cedars. So for those of you who do not want to do the 4.5 mile hike or 6 to Avalanche Lake, you do need to stop and park there because you are going to want to do Trail of the Cedars. That's one of the hikes that I'm like, if you're not a hiker, do Trail of the Cedars. If you are
And
a
that one's
hiker, do Trail of the
wheelchair
Cedars.
accessible too.
Yes, there
Yes,
is a
that was
boardwalk
good.
and
Yeah.
highly compacted dirt. So you can do strollers, you can do wheelchairs. Highly, highly recommend. There's benches along it. So if you get winded easily or things like that, Trail of the Cedars. And it's beautiful because you have those beautiful trees. And then you have that Avalanche Creek coming through with just this crazy water when you get really close. Not it's just a beautiful creek, but then you get to this really beautiful, it's just kind of, I don't know how to describe it, blue, but it's just magical little creek. So for anyone, I would say get started there. It is very busy, but I do think if you just circle around, we got there at about 7 or 7:30 in the morning and found parking in the middle of July. Then and it was packed when we got out, probably 10 or 11 a.m. But if you just circle, believe, you will get a spot. You can do it. Or right, I have so much to say about, or you can take the shuttle, right? We didn't take it, so I can't give like my personal experience, but I'm pretty sure they have that working. Like it's a very well-oiled machine with the Glacier shuttle. So you have options to get there. After that, my kids wanted to go back to the campground and be done for the day. To be honest, they were wiped, but I said, "Oh, sweet children." So Avalanche Lake had been my thing. I guess I should say that. I said, "You guys, this is so important to me. We're going to do this hike. I need to do it in the morning when they had fresh legs and all of that." And then I had not bribed for them, but of course you bribe them. You bring activities to distract them or some yummy candy and then all that good stuff. So when we got back to the car, they were so tired, but the next part of our journey was going to the Sun Road where they can literally just sit and look at the scenery. So really great way to like rest our legs, but still really experience the park. So what we did after that is we actually drove past. So you go up, going to the Sun Road again. It's beautiful every turn, and you can't think it can get better, and then it does. So you're going around and enjoying the beauty of going to the Sun Road. You're going to see the Logan Pass Visitor Center. Again, if you're going west to east on your right, and it will also be packed, most likely. We actually drove past it since we were coming back to West Glacier. If you're not, stop, go to Logan Pass and do what I'll tell you later. But we went past Logan Pass to something called the Sun Point Nature Trail. And uh, perfect for us because it's actually a really great starting spot. You can go to a bunch of different, like 3 different waterfalls and whatever, and have a long experience there. My kids were not ready for a long hike any at this point, so we got out, and it's literally like a tenth of a mile to this huge overlook of St. Mary Lake, and it's gorgeous. It's not accessible in the terms of wheelchairs and strollers. You do kind of like do a little climbing around, not climbing, it's just actual like hiking with some slopes and stuff. So it's not wheelchair accessible, but very accessible for families, for people who maybe don't have a lot of stamina. So highly recommend Sun Point Nature Trail. Just sit there. Maybe it would be a good time for a lunch or just looking out over the lake. You can see the boats zooming by when they do like the boat ferry rides and things like that. And we encountered maybe a handful of people when we were there. Not even that. Like 2 or 3 groups. And it was just nice. It was quiet and easy, and it recharged us. So
That sounds
that's
amazing.
the
I
Glacier
missed
Trail.
that one somehow, so now I have to go back. Darn it.
Yeah, I know. You just go there and go to the Sun Road, and then there's a little turn, and it has like a pretty big parking lot. There's a shuttle stop. It again, if you don't, there's going to be better, I guess, hikes with like more wow factor maybe, but this gives you a lot of bang for your buck. And
Sure.
especially when I'm focused on like family travel to national parks, and I would say a majority of families just can't do it. I think it's a winner. So
I love that.
I hope you like it when you see
No,
it.
I will. No,
Hope it
I
doesn't
love that.
disappoint.
Please.
So after the Sun Point Nature Trail, we headed back west and did stop at the Logan Pass Visitor Center. And that one is going to almost certainly be very crowded. We did get there more at the later part of the day, which I think does help with crowds. We did have to circle the parking lot for about 10 or 15 minutes, but we were able to find a spot and didn't have a hard time. The reason that one can get so busy is there's one hike called the Highline Trail, which is a much longer kind of a day hike that people take, but is pretty famous and pretty amazing. And then there's also, though, something called the Hidden Lake Overlook Trail that is pretty popular as well. We opted to do the Hidden Lake Trail, and I was playing this one by ear, which I'm not much. I'm a very type A, so I don't play things by ear. But I was like, if my kids are not up for this, we're not doing it. It's fine. We'll just see where it leads. Behind the visitor center, there is kind of a boardwalk, but with lots of steps. And we were there again, mid July, and there was snow. You had to cross snow in part of it. And so again, we're from Utah. Snow's not that exciting to us, but a lot of people get very excited about snow. And so it's a really fun experience for people there. And my 2 oldest actually wanted to keep going. My 6-year-old was like, well, she was 5 at the time. She's like, I'm done. I'm good. 5-year-old and dad stayed back, and my 8 and 10-year-old came with me to go to the actual Hidden Lake overlook. And it actually got a little sketchy for us because of the snow and some of the crossing. We kind of got to an impasse where we just weren't sure if we were going to keep going or not. Lots of other people around though, so we had kind of people to help and support us as we kind of got through a little tricky section. It won't be there most of the time because once the snow melts, it wasn't going to be tricky at all. But we made it through. That's a whole other story. But it was so worth it afterwards because that's where we saw that area is known for the mountain goats and everything. And we saw so many mountain goats. We saw a mom and the baby scampering along. Fortunately, they were far enough away that we didn't feel like we were disturbing them and they didn't get in our way. I'm always very mindful of the wildlife in the parks. That's my little plug here. Please bring bear spray to Glacier and be mindful of the animals. This is their home.
I was just gonna stop and say the same thing. Don't
Yeah.
pet the animals, don't bother the
No.
animals. Look at them and go away.
Yes. I'm also very like pro stay on the trail, but if there's like this won't be in Glacier, but when we were in Yellowstone, there was a bison on the trail. And I said, okay, guys, like if he's not moving, we are, and we circumvented said
Yes, he
bison.
gets the
And
trail.
I think that the Rangers would have agreed. I feel like
We
I made the
saw
right choice.
we saw right by Logan Pass Visitor Center a grizzly with her 3 babies, and we were like, "Okay, she can have whatever she wants." Like, but you get to spots where you're like, "Okay, we do have to get off trail because," and they were just, walking, but that's their place,
Yeah, you
and
don't
so
mess with them.
that's 100% the only time I feel okay getting off a trail too.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah.
so you did the lake and it was gorgeous because I haven't done that one either. So it was pretty amazing.
Yeah. It was really pretty. I mean, I for me the highlight of the what the heck is this Hidden Lake
Like
overlook
the
was,
goats.
yeah, the goats, which, and then we actually did see our only bear from there, but he was like, or she, they were all the way across the hidden lake. So we had to use like binoculars inside. And for me, I'm like, perfect. I got my bear sighting. I'm
Yes.
not in their way. I'm
Yes,
not running from them or spraying them. Like this is my bear experience. So
for sure.
so that was, yeah. So I loved that, at the hidden lake, and then we just turned around and came back. The sad part is I had the car keys with me
Oh
and the
no.
wallet, and so and it took us with the do we go, do we not go moment that took like 20 minutes. We'd been gone for like over an hour, and my husband and 5-year-old were just stuck there. I couldn't get to the car, couldn't buy anything at the
Buy a drink.
shop or anything, and so I learned my lesson on that one to make sure he has the keys before we split off. But
Oops.
it's a funny story now, right? Probably still not to him, but I'm over it now. And then the rest, and that night we were spent after that. So then we headed home, did our, to our campsite, we went back to the lake and skipped the rocks and just had the whole like, s'mores and dinner experience. So here's just what I'm gonna have one more thing for your day 3. Okay. Day 3, we just did one activity. And so we cleaned up camp, and we went back to Lake McDonald and we rented kayaks. And
Fun.
again, I am a cheap person, a thrifty, maybe is what we want to say. Okay. But so when we have to spend extra money, where I'm like, well, we could just enjoy the lake. It gets a little hard for me because I'm very budget conscious and I want to make my money spread. I'm like, well, we could spend this here or we could go, on another trip. So we spent the money, and it's not like kayaks are not expensive. This isn't like $1,000 purchase. I think it cost us $200 or less to have a morning of kayaks where I had a tandem and my husband had a tandem, and then our 10-year-old used a child's kayak. And we walk them down. They give you wheels to walk them down to the lake, and then you can spend the morning on the lake. And it was phenomenal. You get to see those rainbow rocks. You get to see, as you go deeper in the lake, obviously you can't see as far down, but in those shallower areas, you could see, pretty far down below you, and you get just those magical mountain views,
Mm,
but you feel a lot more solitary.
yeah.
Yeah, there were other people out there, but it's a lake, right? It's a big wide open space, and so you can kind of go to your own little area and enjoy it. So that was absolutely magical for me, and something that kind of has always made Glacier special. I was asking my 10-year-old this morning. I said, "Okay, hey, like what did you love about Glacier?" And he was like, "Kayaks, the kayaking." So I'm glad that we bit the bullet. So you can see how cheap I am when I'm like, it's $200 for a family of 5. Like that's really not
Oh, but it
expensive
all
for
adds
really any
up. It
kind of
adds up.
entertainment.
Yeah.
It does. So that would be my last recommendation. Now, for those of you familiar with Glacier, as I haven't even mentioned Two Medicine or Many Glacier. We did not get a chance to visit those regions, or Pole Bridge, which is probably the least frequented, I would think. But again, now the next time is we can go to Many Glacier and just really spend and explore time in Many Glacier or Two Medicine or whatever the case may be.
Well, and the thing is those areas are not close by. It's a really long drive to get out there. And so you can't just really like to experience it, just add it to the same day you're doing a hike in West Glacier or going to the Sun Road. Like they're really far away. And so it really has to kind of be its own day at least. If not, it's even better just to stay on that side. Now, Pole Bridge, I will say, is worth the drive because you can go to the Mercantile and have like Huckleberry Bear Claws, and you should do that because that's incredible.
Okay. Well, and
But
Pole Bridge
but
is
the
on that west
road is
side. I
not
mean, it's a
great
little bit
either.
north, but no, I know. And that we had a rented minivan, and
Yeah.
so we kind of skipped the Pole Bridge. But I like that. Did it seem crowded when you had visited Pole Bridge? It seems like people don't go there as much, but they still require the reservation sometimes. So
People go for the bear claws.
that's and
And I think that people go there. I don't think that people necessarily experience the area around Pole Bridge as much as they should. I think people honestly go for the Mercantile and then bounce back to West Glacier, which is valid. But I think that if you wanted some solitude, getting out along the river and stuff on that side could really give you some quiet time too. Because I don't think people get out as much over there.
yeah, I love that. That's great.
So
Thanks.
kayaking is a really great tip though for getting that solitude even during a busy time. That's a really great one. What else would you say is a good way to like kind of get your own space when Glacier is kind of hectic? Early mornings, I think, right?
Yes, absolutely. And this is the tricky thing with Glacier as well. So Glacier, I recommend it to everyone. First of all, I do think everyone should go to Glacier, but Glacier does take a little bit more effort when it comes to the planning because, like you said, that going to the Sun Road, which is a big draw and also is a big access way to different parts of the park, is closed almost always until sometime in June, if not July. And then they close it, it gets closed back up again like mid to late September. So it's a very small window with a lot of people wanting to access it. But, and therefore, and it changes every year, and you'll need to check with the actual park, but there's going to be a reservation system that you'll need to get a car or vehicle reservation. But if you don't get the reservation, they offer a shuttle system. So they have lots of parking down at the Apgar Visitor Center if you're on West Side, and I think it's probably St. Mary's on the east. And you take the shuttle. It's not an additional cost. You still have to pay to get into the park, but you can take that free shuttle, and while there will be people on it, you don't have that stress of parking. For me, finding parking spots can sometimes be a little stressful, and you're just like, it's using up all my time. It's using up all my
Mhm.
time waiting for a parking spot. If you plan for a shuttle, which will also take additional time because you have to wait for the shuttles, but if you kind of already have that planned for you, that might take away some of that stress of the crowds. You'll definitely have people around you because the shuttles will probably be packed, but you don't have to worry about the like, am I going to be able to do this hike if because I can't find parking? You take the shuttle and you're good. Another one is they have the tours, and there is like the Red Bus tour that is kind of a concessionaire. And there's actually, and I think most of them run from the east side, but there might be a west side. Some of the native tribes have access to tours that they are able to run through the park, which I think would be a really great option as well. But both the Red Bus and those other private tours do have an increased cost if you want to avoid it. If you really want to avoid the crowds, I would say, and I don't have the personal experience, but in my research, Two Medicine could be also a really great option where there's some good hikes. That's on the east side. You'd be approaching it differently, but it usually doesn't require reservations. And from what I've seen, and maybe you have better experience, it's not quite as crowded as the other locations.
No, and I will say if you go over to Two Medicine, you need to be prepared ahead of time. You are not gonna have self-service, like, once you almost get there and while you're there. In West Glacier, I do here and there, but I would definitely recommend if you're going to the east side anywhere, download those maps ahead of time, get your hiking plans ahead of time, have, cash for whatever you need or whatever, get gas in the towns, before you get
Yes.
there because it is definitely out there and rugged and wild, and that's what makes it beautiful. I don't want that to change. I don't want to get an email while I'm there, but you do need to have your hikes planned and things like that. You can't just really wing it as well as you can on the west side. You need to have a plan going in.
I love that you mentioned that too, because really it's good practice for really any national park and especially Glacier, and then even more so, right, the Two Medicine or that eastern side, because not that it hasn't been that long where now you can download a Google map before you leave. You can the national park app
I
is
was just
pretty
gonna say, I love it,
newish, right? And you can
and it's a
download them.
great app.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So hats off to our National Park Service. They are
Yes.
so incredible. But yeah, download that map. And then also, if you do All Trails, I mean, I'm not trying to sell you on All Trails, guys. It's free. But if you do All Trails Plus, you can also download your map. So do like the 2 week free trial, like right before you go on a
Yep.
trip, and grab that because it really helps you feel confident and safe knowing that you know where you are.
No, that's true, and the other thing with the NPS app, the National Park Service app, you can download kind of a whole park before you go. So you'll have the visitor center information and what hours they're open and different areas of interest within the park too. And then you could, like she said, go into all trails and, download your specific hikes if you want. But just if you need an overview of like, oh shoot, before we drive all the way up to Logan Pass, is it even open? The NPS app is a great, and that one's totally free. And so you just want to make sure
Yes.
you have all that done ahead of time. So, well, now I'm about to hop in my car and drive to Montana again because I can't stop thinking about
I
this
know.
park. So it's like
I know. I feel
only
the
like a
same.
10-hour drive for us. And so last time I went, it was like Thursday night and I was on the couch and I looked at my husband. I said, I got to get out of here. I'm going to Montana. And he said, "Ha ha." And I said, "Okay, don't go then. I don't care. Like, I'm going." And then he goes, "No, wait, if you're going for real, I'm going." We packed up. We left that night. We drove halfway, spent the night, got an Airbnb for the next day. Next morning, my son is 21. Him and his girlfriend called. They said, "Hey, could we come?" We're like, when we get off work and we bring friends. I was like, of course. So they ended up by driving over that night too with their friends. And we just had like the best time. But it was so just like, I was here, I was done with the whole world, and I was like, "I need Montana air and mountains, and I'm out of here." And, like, we just went, and it was the best trip.
Montana really might be the best prescription for most situations. I think
Honestly.
it's it's an incredible place. It really is. Yeah, and in my head, I'm like, we're so close. So again, I'm in like the Salt Lake area. It's a good like 12, 10, 12 hour drive. We split it up because of the kids. But to me, I'm like, it's close. Like Glacier's close. Like we can go back. And I do suggest, I think when you're planning travel to anywhere, don't put the pressure on yourself to be like, I'm never coming back. I have to do it all. And that very well may be the case in a lot of situations. But when you put that pressure on, you don't get to enjoy it as much. So just say, like, oh yeah, and I can always come back. I'll come back and explore uh, more deeply, I guess, if that makes sense.
No, I love that so
Which is
much.
better left said than done. I am like a maximist when it comes. I'm like, we got to see and do everything. So that's me really kind of just lying to your face, but that's what I
No, but
believe in my
you took the
core.
time to let your kids play in the water and not just be like,
Yeah.
"Suck it up, get in the backpack,
Yeah.
we're going." Let's so I think that's amazing. So thank you for sharing Glacier with us. I can't imagine anyone not hearing this and wanting to plan a trip immediately. So go ahead and tell us where people can find you if they want help with that Glacier trip. If they want help getting the inspiration for their trip, where can they find you? Where can they look at your pictures?
Awesome. Well, I actually have at my website, parksfamilytravel.com/glacier. We'll have all of my posts that I've written about Glacier, where I go into more detail about specific hikes and finding reservations and all that. So it's a great place to get started if you're going to do a Glacier trip. And then just for regular national parks and family travel inspiration, you can just find me on Instagram at Parks Family Travel.
I love that. And I'll have both those links again down in the description. I've got all of her great links. So you can find those here in the description. And then you're not going to want to miss next week because I'm bringing Maggie back because she has another story that is hilarious and kind of focuses. This was our Instagram worthy trip. And maybe the next one is a real life, not so Instagram worthy trip. So come check us out again next week, part two with Maggie. And thanks for being here, and we'll talk to you soon. So